Welcome back to the Filthy Report. My name is Jason Filthy Jones, bringing you the dirtiest information with the cleanest style. UFC 253. It's in the books. Let's get into it. I'm only going over the 3 fights tonight, guys. These are the 3 fights that hit me in the heart the most, so that's what I feel like we should talk about tonight. So, I don't mean to start off on a bad night, but let's talk about this Diego Sanchez and Jake Matthews fight. I don't know where you guys see Diego going from here, but with me, I love the guy. I think he's a legend of the sport. He's done a lot for the sport, but I'm really starting to find it very hard to digest his fights and just watch him fight anymore. At this point in time, I really wish that Diego would just hang it up. The reason I'm saying that is because I start to think about what is he going to look like in his later years. He's one of those guys that wears his heart on his sleeve and goes out on his shield, and he's never going to change that style. That's the type of style the fighter he is. He's a hard-nosed brawler, get in your face, and try to just make it a really dirty, nasty fight. But at the level of fights that he's put on in the last 2 fights, I just don't think he has it anymore. He's slowed down a lot. The reaction time is just not there. I don't see him running for another title shot. I don't really see a lot of legacy fights in there for him anymore. He's not really fighting at the weight class that I feel that he did the best at, which is going to be 155. I mean, come on, guys. The last time he was in title contention was when BJ Penn was the lightweight champion. Diego is looking a lot smaller for the 170. He's not looking as physically fit as he used to. I don't mean to shit on the guy, and I don't mean to talk mess about him like this because I do respect him. I just don't think it's going to end well for him. And, once again, I'm not trying to shit on anybody, but let's talk about Jake Matthews. I mean, what did this fight do for him? He's a young up-and-comer who is a really good fighter, has really good striking, can pretty much hang on the ground and knows how to get some ground and pound off and everything. But at this point, I mean, with that fight, everybody in the whole world was expecting Jake just to bulldoze through Diego Sanchez, and it seemed like Jake couldn't even get him out of there. I don't know. I don't know if it was off of because maybe Jake is just seeing him as one of those legend guys, and he doesn't want to put the beating on him or put the pace on him like he could do or be able to. I feel like he gave Diego a pretty good chance. I'm not saying Diego wasn't putting on a good fight. I'm just saying that I just don't think he's able to compete at the level anymore that he used to. And I would like to see him hang him up and just retire and leave from the sport. I'm hoping that he's made enough money to take care of himself. I'm hoping that he has other business opportunities for himself. I just don't see him competing at the UFC level anymore. And I do understand he has 4 more fights, but that's 4 more fights of head damage that I just don't want to see anymore. I'm just saying. And I don't feel like this fight did anything for Jake. It didn't really move him in the rankings. It didn't push him to the next level. It didn't do anything. And I feel like he had multiple chances to get Diego out of there. And because of the respect level, it just seemed like he wasn't. Or maybe he was a little bit more gun shy because Diego is an awkward kind of fighter and he's hard to read. But I'm not going to dwell on that fight too much more. Let's move on to the next thing. And all right, guys, co-main event. What can we say? Jon Blockovich versus Dominick Reyes. All hail the new light heavyweight king, Jon Blockovich. Props going out to Jon Blockovich and also to Poland in crowning their new light heavyweight king. What can I say about this fight? One thing I can say is Blockovich looked like he was dead focused and nobody was stopping this man. Came in physically in shape, Cardio was on point. Stuck to his game plan. Kept cutting Dominick Reyes off on the cage. Kept pressuring him. Kept moving, staying in his face, trying to get him to push back. And creating the openings to open up that body and land that pinpoint left kick over and over in the same exact spot. Now, I don't know what to tell you guys, but I will have to say I will eat crow on it, because in the breakdown I told you guys to go with Dominick Reyes and that he would be the easiest choice, thinking that he was going to TKO Blockovich in at least the second round, the third round. Now, boy, was I wrong, and I will admit that I was wrong. But I also did tell you guys that Blockovich did have some really good power in his hands, and he was no slouch. He has a really good ground game too. But giving you guys all that information in the breakdown, that was all before I listened to any of the pre-media or anything like that. I basically just went off of knowing the guy's fighter's skill and finding out that I guess when Dominick Reyes got there, there was a lot of fatigue. His sleep schedule was all off. And by all means, don't take it as me giving him an excuse or giving me an excuse for making the wrong decision on that fight. What I'm saying is, you never know what type of person is going to show up. And Dom, being a very skilled fighter and a very high-level fighter, he didn't seem like he was there. From the beginning of the fight to the second round to where he got laid out, it seemed like he never showed up. In the second round, he did start pushing the pace a little bit more, throwing his hands a little bit more and letting him go. But it seemed like Blockovich just had his number. He kept throwing those kicks, creating the openings, made Reyes drop his hands, and threw a heavy combination to finish him off with that right hand, rearranging his nose and putting him out. So, I mean, there's not much we can say about this fight, but Blockovich is now the reigning champ and now the reigning king. Now, on the other side of that, with all the tweets that John Jones was kicking and everything, all I have to say is this. I don't know if you guys feel like you guys would like to see John Jones come back and fight for the light heavyweight title, but to me, I really just rather him move on to heavyweight and continue on that path, because I don't really feel like there's anything at light heavyweight. And the other thing is, and this is all honesty, and I'm not trying to disrespect Blockovich or anything like that. Let's see how long Blockovich is going to hold on to the belt. He is a older individual. I mean, he's 37, 38. It's had his ups and downs in the UFC, but that night was his night. He got the belt and he holds the belt. He is the champ, and I'm not going to disrespect him. I hope he holds on to the belt for a long time, but let's see how it goes. Next, we got Thiago Santos and Glover Teixeira fighting. I think they have next. You still have Yuri that just came to the UFC. Let's see how he goes. And never forget that Anthony Johnson is back, and he's coming back at light heavyweight. That is a fight that also interests me. Where do we go from here? We'll see. With Dom, I feel Dom's going to get pushed back in line, and he's going to have to fight maybe 2 or 3 fights to get back into that title contention. But we'll see how it goes. But once again, props out to Jan Blockovich. Really good champion, really good fighter. Let's see how he does in the next. And now, main event. Israel Adesanya versus Paulo Costa. What can I say about the fight? It didn't really live up to what everybody was expecting, but I guess you could say that's because of the marketing machine that was put behind this fight. You have to remember, in the breakdown, I told you guys that people was calling Paulo and saying that he was a knockout artist. When he wasn't a knockout artist, he's more of a TKO'd artist and likes to finish you off in punches and bunches. Now, with the way he was fighting on this night, I would have to say that Israel finally showed everybody that you must have forgot how good of a striker this man is. He didn't even let Paulo get a shot really off. He left him standing there like he just had his feet stuck in the cement and was not able to push the pace or put any game on Israel. Basically, completely letting Israel just put on a Muay Thai clinic. Devastatingly destroying that leg. I'm talking from the calf all the way up to the thigh. He would not let Paulo get even close to him, keeping him in kicking range and on the outside the whole time. And every single time Paulo tried to move towards Israel to create that either a clinching option or to be into striking ranges with his punches, Israel would slide out and cut him off and be able to throw 3 to 4 punch combinations off the lead foot quickly. Now, and switching it up and pushing the pace and turning out of the corner to make sure that he always ended up on the outside of Paulo. What can you say? I mean, it basically turned out to what it was going to turn out to being is a TKO, basically a knockout victory for Israel Adesanya. Where do we go from here? I don't know, man. I don't see anybody really dethroning Israel Adesanya anytime soon. I understand that he is looking at Jared Cannonier next, but I just feel like there's a large gap. The striking ability that Israel has is unbelievable. And to give you guys a report that people haven't been reporting about Israel is that was his 100th combat fight. He's had about 75, maybe even 78 kickboxing matches, and that was his 20th MMA fight, and he is undefeated in MMA, which brings him to 100 fights in combat sports. It's going to be kind of hard to catch him off guard. He only seems to get better every single time he steps in that cage. Where do we go with him? That's pretty much it. It's either Jared Cannonier or, I mean, who else is waiting in the wings? Now, my decision would be, where do we go with Paulo? To me, I would love to see him go up against Chris Weidman. Do you see that happening? I doubt it. I mean, who do you toss at him? Who's next? Because I really think he should implement working on his ground game a little bit more to push the pace and get people to the floor. Because don't get it wrong, Paulo is a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. He does have jiu-jitsu in his back pocket, but it seemed that when he went in there and felt Israel, just the pressure that Israel was putting on him and throwing them kicks continuously to his lead leg, his whole game plan just seemed to go out the window. And as he's making jokes and making fun of Yoel Romero, I mean, he did probably 2 to 3 more steps than Yoel Romero. And he just looked like he shouldn't be there. And it's really sad. To me, I would like to see him fight Chris Weidman. Who do I see Paulo fighting next? I wouldn't be surprised if they throw Darren Till at him. And with Darren Till, I see him having a really good advantage against Paulo in that fight, in that style of fight. Darren's just sort of like Israel. He has a really good striking background, and he has really good kicks. Will keep you on the outside, and he's a very, very big boy that will be able to handle Paulo. I think Costa should really, I don't know. He has a really hard time getting down to 185. Even though that people don't really talk about it. I mean, they plan his diet down to the gram. Maybe he should just move up and see what 205 has for him. I feel like he would have a lot more power in there. He'd be able to, his body size would fit in that style of weight class. And he wouldn't have to do the strenuous heart weight cut every single time. Because I think when he gets into the cage, he is probably about 220. Maybe 215, maybe 210. But what can we say? I mean, I just feel like he was rushed too fast, too soon. Chose to do a fight in Abu Dhabi when he probably should have just waited a little bit longer. He was able to fight in the States. I don't know. It's really sad. I just feel like he was completely lost in there and didn't know what to do. And I don't see anybody being able to take out Israel anytime soon. Other than that, I mean, the backlash that he's throwing at Israel for the way he celebrated the fight. Let's put it out there, guys. If you talk shit in a fight and completely disrespect somebody, don't expect them to show you respect in that cage. Especially somebody who is a quick, witty style kind of person that has the press conference styles of Israel Adesanya. I see him as being the next star. He is the next one on the path of doing just like Conor McGregor. He's that breakout star, that mainstream star that even casuals want to pay attention to. So if you guys don't like him, or if you do like him, just understand he's going to be around for a while. I don't see him getting dethroned anytime soon. And please, I understand everybody's in this big thing of saying, let's see him fight John Jones. I would really like Izzy to get a little bit more under his belt, and maybe even to get a little bit more size. I just think John would be way too big for him. I do see that John does not understand how fast Izzy is, and that could be detrimental to John. John is a fast fighter, but he's never been a really, really quick fighter. So do I think Izzy should just blast right up to 205? No, let's give him a little bit more time. Let's work through. Let's see if he can get more title defenses than Anderson Silva. I think it's possible for him. He's a really good fighter. He's one of my favorite fighters. I just don't want to see his career get cut short because somebody's rushing him into the 205 division. I don't think he's ready to do that. I think he should just sit at the 185 for a little bit longer and clean out the division, and then let them talk about the 205 division for Israel. Other than that, I mean, let's get into a couple of things that's happened during this week. First off, there's been a couple of fight announcements. Robert Lawler versus Michael Perry, and that's looking at UFC 256. And also in the works, up in the air, Wonderboy Thompson called out Leon Edwards. Let's see if that gets made. Also, it looks like they kiboshed the Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal fight, and it looks like it's going to be Jorge Masvidal versus Kobe Covington, which is probably a better fight anyways, and actually does something within the side of the division. Other than that, the other couple of things I have to talk about is also, Neil Magny calling out Hazmat. Actually seems like a decent fight to happen. Don't understand why Neil would really want to take that fight, but hey, I'm willing to watch it. Let's see what happens with it. Other things that happened during this week, of course, if you haven't heard in the media or on the websites or even Dana talking about it, there seems to be a war between him and Conor McGregor going out on Twitter and also Instagram. My opinion on it is this. First off, I don't think anybody should, especially when it's dealing with business, should ever leak people's DMs. That was wrong. But on the other hand, I love Dana White. I think he's a really good thing that happened to the UFC and all that. But we're going to admit, Dana's a promoter. He talks shit and he bullshits, and he's going to cover his ass, and he's going to do what the promotion needs to have done. And if you feel like he's going to bullshit and lie about you, that's what's going to happen. Was it wrong for Conor to release the DMs? I kind of feel like it. Did Dana kind of have it coming after him? Kind of, but it is what it is. Trust me, it will get worked out. But the other thing about the other side of Conor McGregor with the Manny Pacquiao, I would rather not see that fight. if it happens, am I gonna watch it? Yeah, I'm gonna watch it. I'm a Conor McGregor fan, but I will admit to you, trust me, this is not gonna be a good fight. I don't see Conor being able to handle Manny Pacquiao. And then the other big question would be, what weight are we doing this at? I mean, Conor's probably walking around at about 175 pounds. Manny normally fights in the 140s. Conor hasn't been down to 145 in about, what, I want to say 4 years, 5 years. Who knows? Anyways, I would rather see Conor get in the cage and actually fight. We'll see what happens. Hopefully he gets into an MMA fight, but I don't know, man. I'm not too interested in that fight. Other thing, listen, in all due respects, Jon Jones is one of the greatest fighters of all time. But if he keeps coming back and floating the notation that he wants to come back down the light heavyweight and fight for his light heavyweight title, I'd rather him not. Let's just move on. Jon, just go to heavyweight. Do your thing at heavyweight. Let them have their fun at light heavyweight. You need a fresh matchup. Trust me. We all know you'll dominate the light heavyweight division for a while longer if you stay there. Don't want to see it. Don't want to hear about it. Now, on my way out, I will give you a quick breakdown on the Holm versus Aldana fight. It's a fight night on Fight Island. Where do I see this fight going? Seems like a pretty good matchup for Holly Holm. I do like it, but let's see where Holly's going to be at. I mean, in all honesty, the 135 and 145 women's division is at pretty much a stalemate. Nunes is ruling both divisions. She holds both titles. Holm has already fought her in both divisions, I think, if I'm correct. I think she's fought her at bantamweight too. But she just recently fought her at featherweight. I still don't think that Holm has the skill to actually beat Nunes. Nunes is at a far leaps and bounds above them. Also on I just see Holly being able to work her actual striking game and being able to put Aldana out. But once again, Aldana's no slouch either. She has a really good ground game. Let's see where she goes from here. Let's see how the fight goes. Also, pay attention on that card. There's also going to be Irene Aldan versus Juliana Pena. Juliana Pena hasn't fought for a while. She just had a baby. And she was a force to be reckoned with in the bantamweight division for a while when she first was fighting. She was almost on the way to getting that title shot and then met up with Valentina, and Valentina submitted her. But don't overlook her. She's a very good ground fighter. Her striking is pretty decent, but she has a very hard challenge going up against Irene Aldan. Irene Aldan has been fighting continuously, and to me, I still think ring rust is a real thing, especially, but we'll see how it goes. Also, we got two legends of the sport. One you might know if you're not a casual fan, which is going to be Carlos Condit. And he's fighting Court McGee. Court McGee's another fighter that's known, but not going to be known too well by casuals. He was on The Ultimate Fighter. Very good fighter, very hard, gritty fighter. Well-rounded, but he is a bell-to-bell kind of fighter. So we'll see. Does Carlos still have it, or should it be about time that Carlos starts hanging up too? He's not really floating in the top of the division anymore. But hey, man, Carlos Condit's still one of my favorite fighters. He's a natural-born killer, and he's a natural-born killer, and he's called that for a reason. Can't wait to see where he goes with this. It's a fight that I'll be watching. So make sure you stay tuned. Always make sure like and subscribe. It is The Filthy Report. My name is Jason Filthy Jones. Bring you the dirtiest information with the cleanest style. I'll catch you guys next time. Keep it up. Peace.